Hello, my friends, and welcome to part 3 of being a human. I just had a few things to talk about, and I didn't know how else to label it, so I figured I would just upload each one as a part to a 3-part ramble about life. I was thinking a moment ago about what it really means to be, well, weird. Anyway, sorry, I'm just having light tricks being played on me on the roof I'm looking at here. Um, Easily distracted human being. Uh, the things that we're not supposed to talk about. They say religion and politics you should never talk about. And I was in the house just a minute ago thinking about how important it is that we do talk about those things. Not just religion and politics, but the one that the fact that people even say, "Oh, you should never talk about religion and politics," shows that they're talking about those things by even mentioning them. The one that nobody mentions is death, and death is always following us around. And I think that if you can learn to find humor in the fact that you're mortal, life becomes so much more appealing when we're not trying to constantly defend some eternal reality that we're going to exist in this present mind forever, because we know better. The person you are today is not the same person you were when you were a kid, nor will it be the same person when you're old. And yes, there's a certain part of us that we consider our self, but when you really break it down, that's based on all our experiences in life. So therefore, it's this 3D reality, this life, that gives us who we are. And we can argue against that or say that there's some, innate awareness within us that transcends time, and that might be true. But the us that we consider our us, the ego, beyond the flesh and bone, I think that embracing this now is what's most important. Which conquering death leads us to turn our gaze to the other issues, which are the religion and politics. You cannot avoid politics. There are politics within the household, politics within the city, within the community, the neighborhood. If somebody doesn't like the way your yard looks, that kind of stuff, you cannot avoid it. And so therefore, politics doesn't have to be a dirty word. It merely means dealing with other people. That's really all politics is. It's our way of coping with one another. So you could call it structure, you could call it society, but politics is definitely intertwined with that. And when it comes to religion, I've had my own opinions on religion. I'm not going to go into that in detail here. I just wanted to briefly touch on the idea that, um, to an extent, yes, believe whatever you choose and be happy with it. And then another side of it is, well, if this affects policies and the way that, we dictate laws and regulations like they do in other countries as well, then maybe religion is damaging. But a lot of people don't seem to think that they can derive their morals from anything except a belief system. And so it leads us to this kind of argument back and forth of, well, what is right and wrong? What are our values? And how religion and belief systems came together to kind of help us agree on at least a few principles. And whether you agree with it or not, is really irrelevant to the fact that most people are religious. So we have to cope and intertwine that into how us secularists, if you will, deal with that. And I think it's a Pilsner. It's not too bad. I find that being human is a huge challenge sometimes, but for the most part, it should be effortless. You should be able to just live your life if you don't expect a lot. If you're not trying to move up the ladder and get a nicer car, or a bigger house, better stuff, the newest phones. If you're living a pretty modest life and you're working and doing your best, you can usually make it by in America. And because of this, a lot of us have become kind of complacent in what we consider to be, I don't know, exciting. And I guess what I should say is that they're not as desperate as they once were in a lot of ways. Financially, sure, we owe money, but that's different than having your fingers cut off or being hanged or being chased because you owe money. Um, so we don't have the same fears in us as we did before. And fears instilled kind of a belief system to give us hope, belief in something greater. And so we created a variety of religions to understand this. And so today, it's fascinating that after all these time, thousands of years of different religions being intertwined, and then coming into the modern day, that we're still afraid to talk about it. And I'm not saying everybody is. There are plenty of religious people who are more than happy to spew everything they believe, and many people who are atheists who just want to, do the same thing from their angle, and they'll argue back and forth all day. Whoever's right or wrong doesn't matter. The point being that they spend their time arguing because of the sake that both sides feels that the other side is causing harm to society. The religious think the secularists and the atheists are somehow morally deficient, which is total nonsense. And the atheists think the religious are corrupting the school system, or other parts of society, which is true to an extent, but not really. Most people are going to believe what they're going to believe. There are exceptions in the South and in Texas where people are trying to put the Bible into books and remove evolution from it. I can't get into that right here, but I'd just like to say that it's important we talk about these things. That's why we have to discuss religion and politics. I wouldn't say that I guess most people are really afraid to discuss these things. I would say that I guess it seems that a lot more people are than you might think. There are people who are very outspoken because they like to be heard, they like to talk about the most controversial things, and then there are others who just are frustrated and angry by the system and the way it's treated them. And all people, I guess, deserve to be heard. We deserve to hear each other out. I feel like we're not treating each other with respect as humans. And this is countrywide, this is worldwide, citywide, and it's a lot of propaganda that's being shoved down our throats that we're believing. If you really start to respect your neighbor and really ask them who they are and try to understand people, generally you can get along with most people. But there are the exceptions. I'm not doubting that. There are thieves, there are liars, cheaters, there are neighborhoods full of vermin and shitballs, and I can't stand thieves either. So, I'm not saying that we just need to respect each other all the time and just trust one another, but we should at least have conversations with one another. So, those are my thoughts for the day. I'll talk to you all later. Hope you have a wonderful day, and be well. That was part 3, and I'm done now.